Hey guys, hi everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Hey Aditya, hi. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Nitish. Good evening, Ashif. Good evening, guys. Good evening. Good evening. So I can see students are joining. So welcome to the next week of this HTML and CSS model module. And I think until now, how many classes have we taken? How many classes have we taken in this? Eight, right? So perfect. So I think this is our ninth class in that case, right? Hmm, perfect. So today I don't have my other screen available with me. I am not, at that place where you usually take classes. So I do have access of chat still, but in between, if there's some issues, please do let me know. Okay. So I don't have any other screen today. I have only this screen, no other screen. So in between, if you face any confusions, if you face any issues, please do inform me. So I think my screen is already visible to all of you. Good evening, Smriti. Good evening, Omkar. Good evening, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Where are rest of the students? So currently we are in a. Currently, what are we discussing? Okay, in the previous session, we discussed our forms, right? And we try to understand different concepts of forms. In today's session, we are going to go back to the CSS and we are going to understand the very important concepts of CSS. We will discuss typography. We will discuss CSS positions. These are the two topics for today's class. A very simple discussion that we are supposed to do. I will try my best to make you understand everything, whatever we have, and let's try to see what we can do in today's session. Okay. So let me try to create a file with the name of typography.html like this. Okay. What do we mean by typography? We know that whenever we create our website, whenever, right, 100% of times there will be a lot of text involved in our application, lot of text, right? Now when we talk about text over there are different properties, different things that we should take care of. Like we should at least know like these things we can implement with respect to the text. And that's what our today's class agenda would be. In the first, we will understand typography, which means all the CSS properties related to the text. Not all, but most of them, right? So let's do one thing. Let's create a p tag, and in this p tag, I will have good amount of text over there. Let's say lorem 200. Okay. Now, of course, right now I have a proper text in the output. If I try to open this with my live server, you can clearly see my text over here visible in the output. And if I try to zoom it a little bit out over there, like this one, if I try to go here and if I try to zoom it out, this is how my text looks like normally. Like this is the 100%. I mean the actual, maximization of my web page, which is 100%, right? Actual size. Now, in this case, sometimes our requirement might be that we want to implement some property, some CSS, some design related to the text. What is the first property that we can implement on this particular text? As we all have seen that. So if I implement style over there, if I target this p tag, the first property that we can discuss over here is called a font size. What does font size actually do? Font size simply talks about the thickness of text. So I can simply say 30 pixel over there, and you can clearly see the output over here in the output window. So let me try to divide my screen into two parts. You can clearly see this is how my font size will affect. So if I make it 50 pixel, this is how it's going to be. This is first property. And by default, p tag over there has a font size of 16 pixel, right? This is the first property, and I think we have already discussed font size in the previous sessions as well. Now, another very important thing over here is, which we already have discussed, it's not necessary we will implement pixel. We can implement some other properties as well, right? I mean, other units. What are the other units that we might implement? percentage we can implement, rem we can implement, em we can implement, and so on and so forth, right? We have seen that. We have understood all of the differences between them. Another very important text property that we usually talk about is called font weight. Font size is not the thickness, actually. Font size is the size of the text. Font weight is the thickness. And we have the lowest value of 100 and largest value of 900. So, for example, if I select the 700, you can clearly see now this is how bold it is right now if you look at the output. Do you see a change in the output, guys? Of course, there's a change. So if you want to simply control the thickness of the text in that particular case, we can use a property called as font weight. We can simply go, and if I write over here 300, you can clearly see 300 is a little bit small, which is by default, I guess. So if I write 500 over there, it looks like this. If I go write 600 over there, it looks somehow like this. If I go here write 700, it somehow looks like this. So we have smallest value over there, or we can even write over there, bold, like this, bold. If I implement bold, it goes like this. If I implement bolder, although I think bolder and bolder is one of the same things, we can clearly see that. So we have font size with which we simply control the font thickness of a particular text. Related to font, there's one another very important property that we usually use, and it's called font family. Now, what do we mean by font family? Font family simply deals with the font style of an application. Like, do you want it to be a simple Arial? Do you want it to be a simple Vajana? Do you want it simply be Courier New, and so on and so forth? So if we want to simply change the font style, the style of a particular text in that particular case on that particular element, we can use a very simple property called as font family. In a similar way, I can simply go here and I can simply write, let's suppose in this case, I can simply go font family. And what is the font family which I can use? Maybe something like this. And once I do that, you can clearly see there's a different font family in the output. Now, there are some limited fonts that we can actually, our browser can support on its own. Like I cannot implement, some extra fonts that we have. In that particular case, what we can do is we can simply go on internet and we can search Google fonts. What can we search? Google fonts. And in the Google fonts, you can simply go to a website called as fonts.google.com. And if I simply click on this particular thing, you can clearly see there are hundreds and thousands of fonts over there, and you can use any one of them. Maybe, sometimes your requirement is when you receive the requirement from a particular UI UX design, they will ask you, team, they will ask you, this is the font family you have to use. I do not want you to use anything else. For headings, this font family. For normal paragraphs, this font family, so on and so forth. So I will simply go, let's suppose I have to select over there, maybe over here, Montserrat. So it should be in the, okay, over here. It is over here. So I have to maybe select this one. And usually we select this one. So I can simply select over here. Now on the other hand, drag a little bit down over there. You can see there's thin 100. Remember we discussed font weight, which goes from 100 to 900. Similarly, with respect to font family, we can even attach a proper, what is called a font weight as well. Let's suppose over here, I want to select this one. This is the font family that I want to implement on my text. So I will simply go here and I have to understand how do I make sure that I will be able to use this particular font. First of all, I have to click on get font. Now, when we talk about get font over there, in this particular case, you need to understand you cannot simply copy it and paste it there. No, that's not how it works. So we have to go and click on this get embed code. And over here, we can simply talk about multiple ways. Number one is we can use link tag. Another one is we can use add the import, which we use most of the time. So if I have to use Montserrat over there, I can simply go and copy this particular line of code, which is Montserrat like this. And I will simply go inside my VS Code and I will simply put it at the top. Now, once I have imported it, once I have put it, it means I have imported this Montserrat family from the Google fonts. Now, after that, wherever I need it, I simply have to go and copy this particular font family and go there inside our VS Code and simply paste it. So in this case, if I go here and if I try to remove this, I can simply go and paste this particular font. Now, as soon as I do that, we can clearly see in the output in a second, our font is properly implemented. So if I divide my screen into two parts, this is how my font looks like when we talk about Montserrat. If this is not imported, it's not going to work. You need to understand that, and you can clearly see that. If this is imported, then only this will make proper sense. Because these fonts are not properly supported by default with respect to our browsers. So we have to import. So simply, decide what font you want, simply determine what font you want, and accordingly go to Google Fonts and then select that font, call its @import, and simply go there and copy the font family after that and use it. This is how font family works. Am I clear? Give me a quick answer in the chat. Am I clear with these properties, with these simple properties? Yes or no? Perfect. So these are some font properties related to our, these are some typographic properties related to our font. Now, there are a few more properties which we have to discuss over here. Okay. One of the properties that we actually use, not that much, but still it is an availability, there's an availability of this property, and it's called a line height. Now, when we talk about line height, what does it do? It simply will set the amount of space between lines of text. Let's suppose I will simply go implement 20 pixel. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see the space between this text line and this text line got increased. Let's make it more visual. So if I make it 40 pixel, you can clearly see the space between two lines. So if you want to control the line height, the height between the space between two lines of text inside your HTML, there's a property that we talk about is, and it's called line height. I hope this makes sense, right? So maybe sometimes you have selected a font size which is very close. Their lines are on top of each other. In that particular case, you can simply use line height to make your text more readable. That's what we have. There's one another property. I might be wrong, and it's called line break. Huh. So we have line break over there. So let me simply go implement line break is equals 20 pixel. Now, when I implement line break, what does line break do? Let's try to understand that. Specifies what set of line breaking restrictions are in effect within the element. Let's see from the internet what line break means. So line break property of CSS. So line break, this feature I have today issue of second screen. Says how to break lines of Chinese, Japanese, Korean. So usually we don't need this property because we are not using these kind of things. So this property is irrelevant to us. But related to maybe I thought what line break would do is that whenever this break is happening over there at that point of time, it's going to control something. But I think it serves something else. One of the very important properties which we actually use is called a letter spacing. Now, when we talk about letter spacing over there, what does it mean? It means letter spacing between the word with respect to each other. Let's suppose I will simply 30 pixel. Now we can clearly see this letter and this letter, they have the spacing of 30 pixel. Am I clear? Am I clear? So this is called letter spacing over here between two letters of a particular text. So if we want that, in that particular case, we can simply use letter spacing. What other properties do we have? One of the very important properties, although let me not make it this much because it won't be more readable in that particular case. Let's keep it like this. Although let's keep it much more less than this. Let's keep it like this so that at least you will understand like this is there. What if I have another H1 tag here? So let me simply go give an H1 tag. That is a small text called as Adfar Rashid. That's my name. After this, I will simply go to H1 tag and I will simply go here. And to this Adfar Rashid text, what I will do is I will simply tell it, give it a border. And border should be equals to 2 pixel, solid, and red. Right? Now, with respect to this particular block, there's one very property important which we use. This is like most user text property. If there's any, it's text align. How do you want to align the property? The first one is center. Center with respect to its box. So if you simply want to use the, what is this called? The text alignment with respect to the block that it contains to, in that particular case, we can simply use text align. I can simply go apart from this text align over there. I can simply tell it, do one thing else. Instead of center, make it left. Which is by default, I guess. So it will be left like this. Or instead of that, I can simply go say right over there. And it will be right to this. Maybe on this particular p tag, I simply want to implement a p tag. Let's suppose I will implement a border over there. And with respect to this border, it will be 2 pixel, solid, and red. And you can clearly visualize it. Then I will simply go implement a padding. Padding is equals 30 pixel. Of course, this is also related to text. Why? Because it's adding a padding. Now over here, I will simply go implement a text align. In this case, text align is going to be equals to center. Now, of course, when I do it and make it center, you can clearly visualize now. Since I have added padding, you can visualize with respect to the box over there, it is right now at the center. In a similar way, I can simply go make left, which is by default, I guess. So you can see, no, it's not by default, it's not left. This is what left means. Left, it's unique, I would say not say unique, I would say constant. It's uniform on the left side. And on the other hand, I can implement over here right, which will be from the right side uniform. What if I want uniformity everywhere? Maybe there's a one option called justify, if I'm not wrong. So if I talk about justify, you can clearly see from left, from right. There's both are having the uniform visual appearance in that particular box. So this is what we mean by text align property. Give me a quick yes or no in the chat. Am I clear? Am I clear? Done? Perfect. Very good. So this is what we mean by text alignment. On the other hand, there is one property now, which is the last property which we will discuss. And after that, we will close this typography because there's some other important properties that we have to discuss. Actually, there are two properties that I will teach you. 2-3 properties, okay? Remember, with respect to an anchor tag, okay, an anchor tag, there's an underline by default. Like, for example, if I simply go here, write an anchor tag, and this anchor tag simply says Google. Now, as soon as I do that, you can clearly see in the output, it contains this underline by default, right? Hana? It contains this underline. If I simply go write hello, this hello will also have underline by default, whatever this anchor tag's text is. Now, how do I add underline, overline anywhere to any element? For that, there's a very important property, set of properties. Number one is called text decoration line. What is the number one? Text decoration line. To this element, why do you want why do you want this line to go? Do you want it below of the text element? Do you want it above, or do you want it through it? So for example, if I simply say overline, you can clearly see over here on each line over there, on top, there is nothing but actually an overline. I can simply go write underline as well. So if I write underline, it means on the same element now this underline as well. On the same time, if I say line through now, so line through means in between. So a text element can have a very important typographic property, which is called text decoration line. And it can have multiple values: overline, underline, line through. Overline simply means that each line of that particular text will have an overline. Underline would simply mean the underline, and line through, you automatically understood what line through is. With respect to text decoration line, there's one other property that we talk about, and it's called text decoration line. Color. What's the color of text decoration that you want? So I can simply go implement brown. And as soon as I implement brown, you can clearly see a brown there. What about the width? Do we have a width? So text decoration width over there. So if I simply go and write, style. Text decoration style. Remember when we talk about border, there are different styles which we discussed. Solid, dotted, dashed. In a similar way, I can simply go write dotted. And as soon as I implement dotted, you can see dotted lines. If I implement over there dashed, it will be dashed lines. If I implement over there, let's suppose solid, it will be a solid, which is by default, by the way. And if I implement this one other, if I'm not wrong, called as wavy, it will be wavy line like this. So we can control the line of the text decoration, color of the text decoration, style of the text decoration. There's one other property which we have, which is called text decoration thickness. What's the property called? Text decoration thickness. In this case, I can simply go implement 5 pixel. Now, once I implement 5 pixel, you can clearly visualize what this property does. So the question is not, sir, you are making a weird page there. It's not about that. It's about understanding different text properties that I have and what are their values, possible values that we have. So overline, underline, line through. So these are the 4 properties that we have. Now, instead of using 4 separate properties, there's a shorthand property that controls everything. So for my H1, I have simply one property called as text decoration, in which I will simply tell it, hey, what do I want? I want underline. And how much size this underline should have? It should have 5 pixels. What is the color that it should have? It should be solid. What is the style that it should have? It should be simply dotted like this. So we can simply use all of these 4 properties under one property, shortened property called as text decoration, in which you can write any order. But and similar to border, we also saw in border we can write any order. So over here also you can write any order. Underline 5 pixel solid dotted. And you can clearly visualize, although there's some issue. Sorry, I have used solid here, dotted here. There cannot be 2 styles for the same thing. So what is the another value? It is color. So I can simply go implement color over there is equals to red, and we can clearly visualize red. Although let me implement below. So if I implement below, we can clearly see below here. Am I clear with text decoration property? Yes or no? Am I clear with text decoration property? I think I should be. Right? So you need to understand over there one very important thing, which is that with respect to text, there are a lot of properties. Another property that I, right now remember is called a text transform. So with respect to text transform over there, we can simply tell it that this text, whether I want it uppercase, lowercase, what do I want? If I want lowercase, it's by default lowercase. You can see each line. Let me try to, remove these 4, or let me try to comment this. So I will simply go implement slash star and then star slash. You can clearly see each letter of this p tag is lowercase. If I simply go implement uppercase, each letter of this particular text is uppercase. There's one another called as capitalize. Now, capitalize will simply mean first letter capital, rest it should be small. So capital, 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 the rest of the letters are small. So this is called a text transform property. There's one other property that we actually have called as word spacing. So there are words. We discussed 2 spacing. Number 1 was line height, which is the difference between space between 2 lines. Letter spacing, the difference between 2 letters. Word spacing over there. So I will simply go word spacing. And in this case, if I write 20 pixel, so word spacing is 20 pixel. So there's a word spacing of 20 pixel now. Now you will say, sir, okay, it's 20 pixel. Why is it this much here? Because I have implemented text align justify. And if it is going to keep 20 pixel, it's not able to adjacent this word here. And justify says from right and left, make it uniform. But word spacing will control the word spacing between 2 words. Another very important property. Let's suppose I will simply go and let me try to comment this line of p tag over here. Done. I will simply go here and I will simply have a p tag. In this p tag, I will simply go write hello, a very small text. And you can clearly visualize our small text over here in this particular case. Done. Let me add more lorem 10, lorem 5 or 6. We can see 6 letters more. Now, with respect to this, I will simply go and let me try to control X and let me paste it here. So that this will be in the, this as well. Also, let me do one thing. Let me try to comment these 2 as well. So slash star, and let me have only padding slash star like this. Done. So we can see our text like this. There's one other property, which is word spacing. So let me try to even go there and control X this, and let me try to put it here. Have as many properties that we have. Why am I adding this? This is my p tag. Now over here, with respect to this p tag, I will go and I will implement a border. Done. Sir, implement a border. Very good. So border will be equals to 2 pixel, solid over there, and it should be red. Right. After that, now I will implement some width property on it. Width is equals to 50 pixel. Done. Then over there, I simply have, like when I say width over there, now what it did is it tried to adjust the text over there within the same box. But one thing happened over there if you try to understand it. One thing simply happened over here. What is that? That when I implement width 50 pixel, of course, since text is too much, so over here it's going to create multi lines. I don't want multi lines. I want single lines over there. So what am I going to do in this particular case? So there's an overflow. So what will I do? I will simply go over here and I will simply tell you, do one thing. Do one thing. Instead of wrapping the text within the same block, if you look at it, when my width was 50 pixel, it tried to wrap it within the same block. I don't want it to wrap. So first of all, in order to stop wrapping, we use a property called as white space. And over we'll simply tell it no wrap. No wrap like this. I hope this is a property. So no wrap. When I implement no wrap over there, you can clearly visualize that now it's not trying to wrap, even though my box is only 50 pixel, but it's still one line. Now there's an overflow. Do we all agree there's an overflow? Do we all agree there's an overflow? Yes or no? Let me try to make it 10 pixel and let me try to make this 10 pixel as well. So we can clearly visualize within this particular line of code, there's an overflow. Why is there an overflow? Because according to the requirements that I had, my width was supposed to be 50 pixel and there was good amount of time over, text over there. So there is going to be an overflow. Now, if you would simply want, even let me do one thing, let me make it 60 pixel. Now, if you would simply want, hey, don't display this overflow. So if we want this overflow to be non-displayed, we use a property called as overflow, in which I will simply say hidden. And now, as soon as I implement hidden over there, you can clearly see now the overflow is hidden. So this is also text very important property, typographic property. White space, no wrap, overflow hidden. But when we implemented overflow hidden, do you see there's a one word which got cut in half and it does not look over there good? So in this particular case, when we implement white space, no wrap, overflow hidden, what we will do is we will simply talk about a very important property, which is called a text overflow. Whenever there's a text overflow, I can use simply a word which is called ellipses. Now, when I implement ellipses, you can see hello Lord, dot, dot, dot. Now, this gives a user an idea over it as well that there's more to it. There's more to it. If I simply go and write clip means a normal behavior, how it was earlier. Clip it exactly depending on what the size of the container is. But if I go implement ellipses, this is asking an interview, hey, tell me what text overflow is. Simply, whenever you have a box and to that box there's an overflow, we can simply control that with an overflow. But also, if there is text overflow, we can simply tell it to implement ellipses on that particular container, on that text. And when we implement text overflow ellipses, it simply puts dot, dot, dot at the end. Am I clear? Am I clear, guys? Done? Perfect. So with this, we have completed one very important part of our HTML, which is typographic properties. And when we talk about typography properties, we need to understand over there typography simply deals with the text properties, which means how we can make sure that our text is designed in a far better way. And there are different aspects which we can control, whether it's called font size, whether it is font weight, whether it is font family, line height, letter spacing, even over there white space overflow, text align, text decoration, and word spacing, and so on and so forth, right? You need to understand, like, if I remove this overflow hidden, this property means nothing. Like, you can simply implement and tell it, hey, implement text overflow ellipses when it is first of all hidden in the first place. So these properties must be there in a combination. What if I will simply say no wrap? In this case, it will try to simply make sure that inside this section, it's going to simply wrap it, try to wrap it. But as soon as there is an overflow, there was an overflow. If you remember earlier, this line was this word was getting out of the box. So this particular thing, these two lines simply talks about if there's an overflow, in that particular case, implement dot, dot, dot. And I can guarantee you there might be hundreds of cases when you might have seen dot, dot, dot in your websites. Have you guys seen anywhere? So this is overflow, and make sure that you have this property as well. White space, it simply controls the white space of a text. Now moving a little bit forward, so we have completed typography. Our second agenda of today's class is CSS positions. What do we mean by CSS positions? .html. And see, if you ask me, hey, rate two questions that are the most asked with respect to HTML. and CSS. Sorry, CSS, not HTML, CSS. I will ask you the first question is difference between REM and EM. This is the top most asked question. Another is related to position. What do we mean by positions first of all? Let me simply go and let's simply talk about a simple example. I have an H1 tag and that says simply Adfar Rashid. And if I go live with this particular file, you can clearly visualize Adfar Rashid in the output. And let me try to zoom it a little bit out over here. So 100 over here. Now H1 Adfar Rashid over here is in the output. If I have to properly visualize how big this component is, I can simply go to H1, sorry, in a style tag. So let me implement style tag. And in this style tag, I can simply go to H1. And while I will simply tell it implement the width, sorry, let's not say width, let's say border. So implement the border over there. Border is equals to 3 pixel, solid over there like this, and you can clearly visualize the element. Done. What if I will simply go and implement width? Width is equals to, let's say, 100 pixel. And as soon as I do that, you can clearly visualize. Let's make it a little bit more, let's say 300 pixel. And if I implement 300 pixel, this is how my container looks like. There's one other element over there, let's say P element, that says welcome back. And if you see, welcome back is like this. So let me also implement comma P tag. So for P tag as well, implement the same width and same border. Now my question is, whenever inside your CSS, you have to move an element from its original position. How can you do that? Right now, by default, whenever you create any web page, the normal position of any element is how it is written inside the HTML flow. Like P tag will always be below H1. Then if I create any other element, it will be below this P tag. If I create any other element, that will be below of that, and so on and so forth. The normal flow is simply how I write my tags in the same way, the output will also follow. But what if I want to simply scramble it? I want to simply change the position of this P tag and put it here. Change the position of Adfarashi, put it here, and so on and so forth. How do we do that? We can do that with the help of a property, and that property is called CSS position. Any element's position can be changed. It can be kept at any place in the web application depending on what position type it uses and how we are manipulating the position of an element. Now there are 4 position properties. By the way, 5. Number 1 is static, which is default. Default means however you create the elements in the HTML page, in the same way you will see the output as well. There are 4 more values. What are those? Number 1 is called absolute. What's number 1 called? Absolute. Number 2 is called relative. Number 3 is called fixed. Number 4 is called sticky. These are the 4 possible values of position property. So let's go here and let's talk about my H1 tag. In this case, I will implement simply position, and let's talk about the first value. It's relative. What does relative position first of all mean? Let's understand one thing. Even though I implemented position relative over here, you don't see any change in the output. Do you see any change in the output? No, of course not. I am not able to visualize any change in the output. So what are we going to do now? There are 4 properties that are enabled with position property. 4 more properties. What is the agenda over here? Can anyone tell me in order to, by using position, what is the agenda over here? Like, what do you want? What is it that we actually want? Change the position of an element. Keep it anywhere else, wherever we want. Right? Now, if we are changing the position of an element, okay, don't you think we have to tell it where exactly you have to go, which means we have to give it coordinates? Hey, where it is right now? It is right now here. From here, please shift it from top to bottom 100 pixel, left to right 20 pixel, right to left 80 pixel, bottom to top 100 pixel, and so on and so forth. whatever our requirements are. So position relative on its own does tell the H1 how you are going to move, but we have 4 more properties which determines how this element's position is going to be changed. Number 1 is called top. Top means from top to bottom. From top to bottom, not from bottom to top. Top to bottom. But what is, first of all, if I write, for example, 30 pixel here, what does it actually mean? Although you can clearly see that there's a change in position in the output. Something happened. When I write position to be relative, always remember now on that element, we can implement top, left, right, bottom. And whatever property we implement, it will move towards that with respect to its current position, with respect to its normal position. So normal position of element is this. So if I say top is equals to 100 pixel, it means from here, top to bottom, 100 pixel. So position relative means from the current position. So that's why if I implement top over there is equals to 400 pixel, you can see from the current position move towards bottom 400 pixel. Then if I simply go implement left over there, from the current position, implement the left, let's say 60 pixel. And we can clearly see left over here from the current position. And instead of left, if I simply go implement right, so what was the current position? It was here. So let me try to remove this for a second. So this is my current position. If I implement over there left now or right or any other property, it means from the current position. So when I implement right from the current position, right to left, this much. So position relative means change the position of an element with respect to its original current position that we actually have. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? So in a similar way, I can simply go to p tag. I can simply implement top. Top is equal to 300 pixels. Tell me why is it not working? Why is this not working? I will talk about it, Aditya. Why is my left not working? You need to remember one very important point. I will repeat once. Surely. First point that you will note, Shreya and all, and Simriti and all, that always remember, whether you talk about top, left, bottom, right, these properties mean nothing if position property is not implemented. Whether in front of position you write relative, absolute, or any other value, these properties on their own do not do any damn thing. Is that clear? Is that clear? So if we want to see the effect of it, it means we have to implement position property. Now I'm repeating it first time. Can you guys tell me why is p tag over here at this place? Because that's what its original flow was. That's what its original position was. Yes or no? Right? What if we want to change the position of this element? What if we want to change the position of this element? Position means shift it somewhere else. Now, in this case, I will simply go implement position relative. Position relative, when you implement on any element, it won't do anything. It simply means now on this p tag, where you have implemented position relative, on this element, I can now implement top, left, right, bottom. And of course, when I implement top 100 pixel over there. So from its current position, move bottom to 100 pixel. Do you see it got shifted from the current position? Of course, yes. If I remove this, if I don't implement, this is its normal position, current position. So over here, I will simply go implement a property called as bottom. Bottom means move the element from bottom to top. Top means top to bottom. Bottom 50 pixel. So from the current position, move it top 50 pixel. In a similar way, I can simply go implement left. Now, when I implement left over there is equals to 60 pixel, you can clearly see from the current position, move it left to 60 pixel. Done? Is it clear, guys? Is it clear? If I simply go implement top, now top is equals to, let's say 100 pixel. So top over the 100 pixel, you can see from the current position, top is 100 pixel. Simply. If I implement over here right, so when I implement right over there, not inherit, inherit means inherit from parent, whatever the parent value is, let me implement 40 pixel. So if I implement 40 pixel, you see one thing here. If you look at this, when I implemented a right 40 pixel, it did not get affected. The issue with this particular thing is because left is not allowing it to move. See, if I remove this, now it's right shifted 40. But when I implement left over there, when I implement left, left will automatically change it. So it means it is still left 20 pixel. Do we all agree with that? This is 40 pixel. This left is 60 pixel. It's still left 20 pixel. Am I clear? Done? Perfect. So this is what we will position. This is the easiest position property that you can implement. Now, another very important point related to position properties. I will go to this h1 tag and I will simply implement background color is equals to below, right? So both of these elements will get background color below. Now, do we all agree that I might end up, let's suppose over here, I will simply say my top is equals to 200 pixel. So it's here, let's say 180 pixel. So 180 pixel, something like this. It's here, maybe. And let's say 60 pixel, it's here. Perfect. And then over there, I will simply go implement right is equals 0. So it's here. Do you see there's an overlap between two elements? Do you see there's an overlap between two elements? Yes. Let me do one thing. Let me simply remove this and I will simply implement it over here. So in this p tag, I will have blue color. And in this h1 tag, I will have simply a red color. So two colors. And there's a proper overlap which you can visualize. So the first point that you need to understand, whenever we implement position properties, okay, especially relative and absolute, there's a possibility that there might be an overflow of two elements. That multiple elements might be on top of each other. Now, sometimes your requirement might be that even though this particular card is on top of other sheet, maybe sometimes this red is more important. So you would want this other sheet to take place on top of welcome back. Yes or no? That might be a requirement. Maybe this p tag is, even though there's an overflow, it's okay. I don't worry about this. But this other sheet has to be upfront. In that particular case, always remember there's a property called as Z index. See, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. Z-axis talks about towards you, towards the front screen. So Z index says that the larger value that I have, the fronter I will be. What does that mean? We'll repeat this statement. I will simply go and I will simply implement for p tag. Z index is 1. So it is 1. I will simply go implement Z index over here is 1. What does 1 mean? What does it mean? I will talk about that in a second. Right now, both of these values have the same Z index, which is default value, by the way. Now, you guys tell me quickly in the chat. Right now, my p tag is taking precedence over h1. Reason is p tag comes later on, right? But if I go to my h1 now and if I simply write 2, as soon as I write 2 over there, my h1 takes precedence over p tag, comes fronter to me. That's why I said whenever there's an overlap, Z index says the larger value that I have, I will be fronter that much. Now, in front of this, you can write 100, 200, 300, 400, 1000, whatever number you want. I want this p tag to be fronter. What should I write here, guys? I want this p tag more fronter towards me. What should I write in this case? Anything, any value than 2, greater than 2. So I can simply write 77 as well. Of course, it's greater. Any value greater than 2. I can simply go right now 222. This is far greater. I can simply go right 777. This is far greater. If I write over the 2222, this is far greater. So you need to understand over there, the more Z index of an element is, the more frontier it is. And by default, the value of Z index is, I guess, let me try to see that. So if I go here and if I let me remove this property, I will simply go and implement Z index is equal to 1. So by default, it's 0. Z index is by default 0. So when I write Z index 1, what is the default value of Z index here? It's 0. So 1 is greater than 0. I hope this makes sense. Is that index clear, guys? Is that index clear? So what does that index do? Give me a quick answer in the chat. What does that index do? That whenever I will use a position property, there is a possibility that I might end up 2 cards or 3 cards overlapping on each other. So in that particular case, sometimes my requirement might be that I might want an element towards the front screen, which is not right enough towards the front screen. So to that element, I will simply give more Z index, which means more towards the front screen. The more, the greater the Z index is, the more fronter it is towards you. I hope that makes sense. Moving a little bit forward over here. Now we will talk about a property, and that's called absolute. So let me simply go talk about absolute position. And this is asked most in the interviews because relative is very simple. Position. Actually, the property, sorry, the question that interview question that's asked in an interview is the difference between relative and absolute. Let me simply go here and let me create the same tags that I had there. Even I'm going to copy the same 2 tags here. I'm not going to create anything else. So same 2 tags over here, and let me try to open it with this one as also. I'm going to go here and let me copy the same style here, and let me simply go and paste it here. Perfect. You can clearly visualize your Adfarshid and welcome back text. Now on this p tag, and let me do one thing. Let me add another text over there. 2 Adfarshids and 1 welcome back. Although let me make this h2. Okay. And I will simply say Adfar to Rashid. Done. I have 2 different texts. And let me even add a border to this as well. So h2. Perfectly fine. I can see 3 different tags. Why is welcome back at the bottom? Why is Adfar to Rashid at middle? Why is Adfar Rashid at the top? Because that's the default position of elements, which is, however, I write my HTML in the code, in a similar way, I have to write my, I can see the output as well. Now, before I move forward, are we clear with the relative property, guys? Perfect, we are. Now look at this. The p tag that I will have for this p tag, I will simply implement position property over there, but I will not implement relative, I will implement absolute. And as soon as I implement absolute, something happened. You can see a small change in the output. Do you guys see this small change? Something happened. Yes or no? Very good. Let me do one thing over here. Let me remove this particular line of code. I will go here and I will implement h3 tag in which I will simply go say lorem 5. Done. Now for this p tag, pay attention, you will observe it more. I will simply go implement position and position is equal to absolute. Now as soon as I did that, you can clearly see something very, very, very weird thing happened. Do you see, like, for my HTML web page, it looks like that this is the third element now, which is fourth, by the way, this h3 element. Do you see that? Like something happened to this p tag first of all. Let me remove this. It's in the normal flow. And this is my fourth element. Now, as soon as I get this back over here, you can see it simply shifts lorem ipsum a little bit up, welcome back a little bit down, and it somehow ends up treating this particular thing as third element. So what does position absolute do? It does multiple things. I will come to position relative in few seconds. Let's pay attention towards position absolute, Nitish, first. So over here, as I said, position absolute does multiple things. Multiple things. Number one thing is that whatever my normal flow of my web application is, it simply takes that element on which I implement position absolute. It takes that element out of the normal flow. It treats it as it does not belong to the normal flow. And that's what you saw as well. Do we all agree? Is number one point clear? So number 1 point is on the element where I implement position absolute, it simply takes that element out of the flow. It treats it like it does not exist. It's not part of the current flow. Then what is the second point? If I implement top, left, right, bottom, how is it going to move the element? That's something that we need to understand now. And let's visualize that. Let's try to understand that to some extent. And I'm pretty much sure that if you don't know what position absolute is, and if this is the first time you are learning it, you will feel a lot of confusions. I will go implement top. Top is equal to 0 pixel. As soon as I do that, this is where my element is. Let me do one thing. Let me go to p tag, and tag, I will remove this first of all, and I will go and implement background color is equals to red. This is my background color p tag. After this, I will simply go here and I will simply say top. Top is equal to 0. And as soon as I do 0, it got moved to the top. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. Maybe I will simply go here and I will simply say this not, let's say top is equal to 0. Let me try to implement left. Left is equal to 0 pixel. Again, I'm not able to understand what's happening. What does this mean? Let me make you understand what it means. When we talk about our HTML position absolute property, CSS position absolute property, CSS position absolute property says that on the element where I will implement my position absolute, I will implement on that element top, left, right, bottom, and it will change its position with respect to the nearest positioned parent. What does it mean? What does entirely mean? Let me try to some extent change the behavior of this p tag. I will go here, I will create a div tag. To this div tag, I will simply implement p tag back, and then I will simply go and at the top, I will simply implement h1. And this h1, let's say instead of h1, let me say h4. And this says Cuvette classes. And I can see Cuvette classes here. And let me remove this by the way. And now it's in the normal flow. Let me go here and let me simply implement div. To this div, I will simply go give a width. Width is equals to, let's say, 300 pixel. Let me simply give it height. Height is equals to 300 pixel. And let me simply give it background color. Background color is equals to, let's say, caded below. And we can clearly visualize our div, normal div. Okay, very good. After that, I will simply go to my body that I have, right? To the body or to all elements. Let's implement body. So to the body that I have, I will simply give it a background color. And that background color, let's suppose for our visualization, will be blue. And you can see blue background color. Do you see by default that each web page has a default margin over? You can see that this default margin. There's a default margin. You can see there's a default margin by default. Yes or no? On each element, there's a default margin. So what I will do is I will simply tell it on all elements by default, on all elements. All elements means universal selector. Please implement margin over this is equals to 0. And as soon as I implement margin is equals to 0, you can see that they are now close to each other. On each element, whether it's H1, P, H2, comma, my H, what's the another element? My H4 and my H3. So H4, comma, H3. On all these elements, do one thing, implement a margin bottom. So let me implement margin bottom. And this margin bottom is going to be equals to, let's say, 7 pixel. And you can clearly visualize the difference. Now you can see the different elements. Done. Now, another very important point over here. On this p tag now, which is red right now, I will now implement position is equals to absolute. Now, when I go here, I will simply go implement top, and top is equals to 0 pixel. And you can clearly see that this top, when I implement 0 pixel, it simply made sure that the p tag is right now touching the 0 pixel of body, the web page. Yes or no? It is from top 0 pixel with respect to the web page. Very good. You will still not be able to understand it. Let me make you understand in a better way. I will go to this div, and to this div, I will simply implement position relative. Does position relative do anything on its own? Absolutely not. Unless not, I don't use top, left, right, bottom, it won't do anything. Position absolute breaks the flow. Position absolute does something. Position relative does nothing. Now, can I say this p tag that I'm using, its parent is now positioned? Yes or no? Can I say that's what I'm teaching? I'm trying to explain, Omkar. Patience, little bit patience. Can we say right now that this p tag that we have, this p tag, welcome back p tag, its parent is right now position which is div? Yes or no? It's positioned. By positioned, I mean I have used a position property on it, right? Now, whenever in a child I will implement position, it means now on that element I can implement top, I can implement right, I can implement bottom, I can implement left. Those all values will be with respect to its nearest positioned parent. I am not saying nearest parent. I am saying nearest positioned parent. So I will simply go here and I can simply say top. When I implement top 0, it was here earlier. But when I now implement top is equal to 0, you can see now it's positioning itself with respect to div. Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you understand this? Do you understand what's happening right now? It is right now trying to position itself with respect to the parent. So top 0, 0 of what? 0 of parent. That parent that has the position property implemented. And there's a div that has position property implemented. And if I implement, let's suppose left is equals 20. It does not mean 20 pixel of the current element. No, 20 pixel with respect to div. And it's shifting 20 respect with respect to div. Why? Because div is positional. But on the same time, now if I remove these properties and if I remove this, does this p tag have nearest parent positioner? Does it have positional parent? No. Does it have grandparent positioner? No. So which means eventually it will reach to the web page itself. That's why when I implement top over there is equals to 0 pixel, you can clearly see since there's no positional parent, it's positioning itself with respect to the web page itself. But as soon as I go here, implement the position property to be relative. Now parent is positioned, this means positioned with respect to the parent. I hope this makes sense. We will explain this position absolute again with a better good example after the break. So we'll take a break of 10 minutes and then in the meantime try to understand what we did, try to coop up what we did, and after the break we will understand position absolute again. Okay guys, you make confirmation. So 10, 11 we are going to resume. Sorry, 9, 11. Okay, 9, 11. Hey guys, hi everyone. I hope I'm audible. Am I? Perfect. I am great. So let's understand the same thing over here with the help of a better example. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me try to keep this much of code over here and let me try to remove this much of code. Okay. And in this case, I'm going to remove this particular code, entire code. And let me add only one thing, which is, let's say I'm going to add an h1 tag first, which will simply contain my name, which is going to be Adfarshi. Done. After that, I will have a div, and this div will have a class called as container. Done. In this case, I will have another div, and this div will have a class called as main. Done. In this div, I'm simply going to have an h1 tag, and this h1 tag will have hello. And then this p tag over there, this p tag will have bello, right? And then over here after this, I'm going to simply go and target my first container like this. In this container, I'm going to have a background color, and that background color is going to be like this. Let's say caddy blue. It will have a padding over there, padding of let's say 25 pixel. Then it will have height, and this height is going to be equals to 150 pixel, and that will have width, and width is equals to 300 pixel like this. Done. Perfect. Similar thing, I will go to main. Now in this main, I will simply have background color, and in this case, I will simply go right blue violet. I will simply give it a padding, and this padding is going to be equals to about 20 pixel here. And then once I create a 20 pixel, I will go and let me write this as 250 pixel. Perfect. Now after that padding, I'm simply going to go here, and in this case, do I need anything else? I don't think so. It's fine. Let's make only this much. After this, I will go to my p tag now. In this p tag, I will simply go and give it a background color, and that background color should be red so that we can visualize this p tag which I am moving. Over here, I'm simply going to give it position to be absolute. Now, when I give it absolute, automatically this p tag will be removed from the normal flow. That's the first thing that we learn, right? Now, after that, I'm going to implement top. Now, when I implement top over there, or right, or left, or bottom, it means that this element will be moved with respect to the nearest parent that is positioned. Does it have any parent which is positioned? No, it does not have. It does not have any grand parent. It does not have grand parent. It does not have any parent that's positioned. So in this case, it will eventually go to HTML and move with respect to HTML. That's why if I go to 0 pixel over here, you can clearly see that it's at the top. Am I clear? Am I clear until now? Done. Perfect. After this, I'm going to go into container. Now see, container is the grand parent, which means this caddied below, this one. In this case, now I'm going to implement position relative. Now, when I say position relative, now we can see p tag is moving with respect to this particular grand parent because its nearest parent is even though main, but it's not positional. So it's grand parent, it's that parent, that nearest parent which is positional. So it moves with respect to that. Then I will go here to the main and I will simply implement position and position relative. Now it moves with respect to this particular main. Why? Because now this is the nearest positional parent. Now, if you guys tell me in this particular case, it has parent which is positioned, grand parent positioner, and then maybe even if I implement body position and so on and so forth, why does it move only with respect to main right now? Because it is the nearest one. So the nearest parent, whether it's parent, grandparent, it's going to move with respect to that. So that's why if I simply go right left, and left is equals, let's say 30 pixel. So left of 30 pixel like this. So with respect to this parent. If I say top is equals 10 with respect to this parent, main, because that's positional. But if I remove the main position relative in this particular case, it's going to move with respect to the grand parent. So top 10, left 30 with respect to the nearest position, nearest parent, which is contained in this case. If I remove this as well, in that particular case, it's going to go to the top. Am I clear? Am I clear, guys? Yes or no? Right? Now, what does position relative mean in this case? If I let me get these back, position relative means whatever this element is, simply go and change the element with respect to its own current position, with respect to that current position. What is it? It's blue violet. If I simply go say top or let me say left over there to properly be left is equals to 30 pixel. Now, when I say left is equals to 30 pixel, the same element is moving with respect to its current position. If I say over there top is equals to 20 pixel, same element is moving with respect to its own position. So this is relative. I hope this makes sense. Am I clear? So do you understand the difference between relative and absolute? Am I clear, guys? Done. Give me a confirmation, everyone. Done. Perfect. Now there are more two position properties that we have to discuss. One is called fixed. So fixed.html. Guys, have you seen web pages where you simply drag down and at the top nav bar it's fixed at one position? So you are able to drag down in the application, but that particular element is fixed at its own position. It does not change its position. Or have you seen maybe in a web application, when you go, there's a chat bot. You simply drag down, but chat bot's position is fixed. It does not change its position. How do we do that? So if you want any element to take a specific position on the web page and it should not change, doesn't matter how much you dragged up, we simply use position over there property. Am I clear? Am I clear, guys? Yes or no? Done. Perfect. So let's see the same example over here with respect to this. So I will simply going to go div, and let's make this instead of div, let me make this header. That header which I want to position or chat bot. After that, I will simply go p tag in which I will simply implement lorem 1000. Reason of implementing lorem 1000 is I want to make it draggable, so I can drag drop. So now let me try to go live over here. So as soon as I go live, we can clearly see I am able to drag over here. So there's a dragger on the right side. After this, I'm simply going to go here. In this case, let me try to implement a style. In this style, I'm simply going to go and tell it, target the div element that I have, in which you will simply make height is equals to 200 pixel, then make the width is equals to 200 pixel, and then go there over here and make sure that you will implement background color is equals to red. And you can clearly visualize now the div. Why is my div, by the way? Sorry, it's header, not div. It's header. So it's header. So let me implement header. We can clearly visualize our header. Now, right now, look at this. If I right now go and simply drag, this is a normal element. It will go and it will go to the top. I'm able to drag properly. It's properly working. It's draggable. Now, the same element that I have, I'm going to make its position fixed. Same header. Even if I right now go, you can clearly see right now, if I drag, its position is fixed by default. By default, it's going to position itself with respect to the HTML web page. With respect to the web page, where you want to fix it. So position fixed means fix it. By default, left is 0, top 0. But I will simply go implement bottom. Bottom with respect to the web page, bottom is equals to 0 pixels. So over here. So now if I drag, it's at the bottom with respect to web page, it is 0. What if I will simply go implement right 0? So it's right left over there. I mean bottom right over there. So if I simply go and drag down, you can see its position fixed. So it's position fixed over there with respect to the web page that we actually have. Am I clear? Am I clear? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat. Done. On the same time, I will simply go implement top is equals to 0. Top right means right side. So you simply want any element positions fixed on your application, you can implement position fixed. This is one. Another one that we have, it's called sticky. So let me simply go to sticky.html, another position element. I'm being a little bit fast because I have to go somewhere. Honestly, like there's been a death, in the neighboring area, and I have to visit there. We have to offer janaza, so that's why I'm being a little bit in hurry. So I will teach you quickly sticky, and then I'm going to leave. Okay. So let me do one thing over here. Let me simply copy the same content that I actually have. Let me create a p tag. In this p tag, I will simply have lorem 1000. Done. After this, I'm simply going to go here, and in this case, let me add another p tag. Maybe in between, I'm simply going to add a header. And this header, I want to do something with it. I don't know what sticky means. After this, I will add another p tag, and in this case, I will simply add lorem 500. And if you look at the output right now, you can clearly visualize we have a proper draggable option over here, draggable website. And in between, I have a header. Now let me do one thing. Let me simply go here and let me simply try to add a proper text in the header that will simply say header. Done. With respect to this header, I will simply go, you can see header visible in the output. So let me simply go implement a style. In this style, I'm simply going to tell it, hey, go to the header and simply make its height over here is equals to 200 pixel, and then width over here is equals to 200 pixel, like this. And then I'm simply going to go and implement background color. It's going to be red. And we can clearly visualize our header like this. And right now, if I drag drop, you can clearly see it's properly working. Let me do one other thing. I'm simply going to add more lorem 200. Done. You can see more text over here. So I am able to drag. Now over here, in this case, to the same header that I have, I am going to make its position, and this position is going to be equal to sticky. Not static, but sticky. And right now, as soon as I drag down, you can clearly see in this web application right now, there's nothing happening. Absolutely nothing happening. So what do we do? Whenever we implement position sticky, we have to tell it why exactly we want it to stick. So I will simply go top is equals, let's say 100 pixel. When I implemented top is equals 100 pixel, whatever the normal flow of the element is on which I have implemented position sticky, it's going to be exactly at that place. So you can see header is still at that place. But do you see it's fixed right now, guys? Do you see my header is fixed? Of course not. But I have told it top 100 with respect to the web page. So now see, it is right now in the normal flow, I am able to drag, 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 drag. But as soon as it reaches top is equals to 100, after that, if I drag, it becomes fixed. So it's like latka hua. It's like sticky. It will be in the normal flow. As soon as it goes back to the normal flow, it will simply come to its original position and you can drag drop. But as soon as you drag a little bit down, and then it simply says top 100. With respect to the web page, when it reaches 100 pixel, now it becomes fixed. So this is what we mean by sticky. Am I clear? Do you understand the difference between fixed and sticky? Absolute and relative. So fixed is simply fixed at one point. It will always be fixed. Sticky means it will be in the normal flow. But once it reaches that particular parameter, then it becomes fixed. So that's what the difference is between sticky and fixed. So let me push the code to the repository. I'm going to close the session now, and allow me a second. And if there are any questions, I will try to repeat it in the next class. Please practice as much as you can, and we'll see what we can do. So git add, and today's date is, what is today's date? It's 18. Please make sure you practice as much as you can. So git push original master. I have pushed the code to the repository as well. So thank you so much for joining today's session. Let's meet on Thursday with much more interesting topics from the CSS. Thank you so much, guys. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Good night. Bye.